Part 3. George. Chapter 41. Sweet. Let me start off by explaining the most important thing about me, which is I love my mommy. It was not that I was mommy's favorite child, it was that I just clicked with her the most. When Marcus was born, she clicked as what he did with my dad, but with him, but after I was born, things drifted apart between the two of them, and Sam was always more devoted to my dad even he was to my mommy. I don't remember a time when Mommy was walking like the rest of us Robins do, but that is because, as Dr. Marcacius and Sam would say, as they've been trying to save her life, they didn't appear until I came along. Personally, I'm not really sure that claim is true or not, because of how nice Mommy is to me. I haven't been able to do it lately because of my broken side, but I cuddle with my Mommy almost every day, and she is so sweet, and if her mobility issues, or because of me, she is so nice to me that I just can't believe something like that, because I would think she would hate me if I was the reason why she caused her mobility issues. So now a question that probably needs to be answered is that, if I'm 6 years old, how did I end up so smart? Again, we are all geniuses in our family, so me being this smart, this young, is a trait I get straight from the rest of my family, which comes from our Asperger's syndrome, which is our form of autism, which is why I am an awareness and wear a green cloak in public. However, back to how this is why I'm so smart, the first evidence of me being a genius came on October 9th, 2011, when I, George Zachary Robbins, was born. So my dad said to me, the first time my mother carried me, I was about 6 hours old and she was crying for some reason when she was carrying me. When I first came out of my mom, she fell asleep, and my dad was the first to carry me as I was washed off by my aunt. When my dad first began to carry me, I was crying, but after he cradled me, I was out like a light. When my mom woke up 6 hours later, she wanted to carry me, and as she was carrying me, she was crying. I was awake before my dad gave me to my mom, and my dad has told me that because my mom was crying like a baby while she was crying her baby, which was me. I began crying too. When my mom stopped crying, I stopped crying. When my mom kissed me on the forehead, I tried to kiss her back, but failed because of my underdeveloped motor issues. My afterbirth proved two things to my mother. One, I was going to be devoted to her. Two, I was going to be a genius just like the rest of my family if I was able to be a copycat while I was awake with my mother. I love my daddy too. I just have always had a stronger connection with my mother. I love Dr. Marcacius and Sam too. It is just that they have never really had a strong connection to me because I know they think that I was the one who started her mobility issues. Dr. Marcacius and Sam have always been nice to me. I mean, they've never explicitly said to me that I was the one who caused her mobility issues, and they don't love me because of it, but the thing is that I don't think it is in their good nature, yes, I know that term because I am a genius, for them to be mean to me like that. But then again, do they have good nature? Okay, so I sort of figured out, due to my parents refusing to call Marcus Dr. Marcacius, that Dr. Marcacius is Marcus, but I call Marcus Dr. Marcacius because I know that he wants me to, and because I'm actually afraid of him a little bit because of his lack of good nature, that I call him Dr. Marcacius. However, now we have to get back to the parts directly relating to him and Sam's good nature. So back when Dr. Marcacius was Marcus, he really was nice to me, but he didn't talk to me for what he claimed to be because he didn't share any of our main interests, which was, for me, strange, while for him it was finding a cure for autism. So he was always busy with his studies, and I felt lonely when it was time for me to play with trains, so whenever I asked him, he said no because he was busy. So when he was done, it was unfortunately always too late in the day for me. He probably has only played trains with me like 5 times ever, but he is really nice to me when it comes to my sensory issues. We just weren't really close until Dr. Marcacius appeared, because Dr. Marcacius appeared a few months before the time we got the first riddle from The Return. Sam was pretty much the same way, but to a lesser extent. He was more interested in things like cartoons, and such, but he always watched Mickey Mouse with me, and like Marcus, he always has been very good to my sensory issues. My sensory issues is the trait of my autism that sticks out the most, which is why I go to the Oak Park Charter School. The Oak Park Charter School would meet any accommodation if you asked it to. I have plenty of sensory issues, which others could find to be ridiculous. 3 examples are, I only wear a particular fabric for clothing, which most athletes wear for athletic purposes all day, every day, because other fabrics make me uncomfortable. If I need to get something done, the room I need to be in to get something done must be super dark with a small lamp. Unless it is sleeping, then it is super dark, period. I act defensively if I am touched unexpectedly. So the Oak Park Charter School made all those accommodations for me, and I love it there. Even when things got harder because I am now in a wheelchair, they were willing to accommodate. I know my parents pay good money for me to go there, but God, do I love them so much for it. Speaking of God, let's talk about my life as an awareist. Like the rest of my family, I am a devout awareist who believes that their favorite color is divine and must wear the cloak, which is for me green outside of Robbinsog, and to hate society unless they do an activity that involves their favorite color. So for me, I'm forever grateful for that day we needed to hide from our parents and decided to take the Green Line to Garfield Park, because I don't really get to put my hood down much outside of riding the Chicago L's Green Line. I also forgot to mention earlier that I am forever grateful for the Oak Park Charter School for letting me wear my cloak, and that makes me happy because I need it that way to worship my Lord. However, on saying that, Dr. Marcacius and Sam have never complained about that. I was baptized into the color green on my first birthday at the park by our building in the Chicago Loop. Since then, I have been coming across activities surrounding the color green outside of the Chicago Loop every now and then, but they don't come very often to me. Not sure about my brothers and parents, but one of my favorite green memories was when we went to a Marvel meet and greet at my dad's work for Marvel Comics, and I got to shake hands with the Green Goblin, which meant I could put my hood down for it. It was so much fun. And you know what made it funner? All my dad had to do was make a mask out of tinfoil, and he was Dr. Doom because he was wearing a blue cloak already, so that was just what he did. We had a great time doing that. I still have great memories with my family, but not as much as I used to ever since Dr. Marcacius appeared. I know that Marcus and Dr. Marcacius are the same person, but at the same time, they are not the same person. Marcus was a man who, even if he didn't have much to do with someone, that he would still be very nice to that person, even if he had issues focusing on you, which is what sent him to the Kimball Charter School to begin with. Dr. Marcacius has a lot more behavioral issues than Marcus Philip Robbins, who was born on January 1st, 2000, and not May 26, 2017. I cannot envision my brother Marcus hitting my brother in the head with a cane or crash out a window. However, while saying that, I actually think that at the same time, trying to save Mom is something that I can only envision Dr. Marcacius would do and not Marcus. The reason why I can only envision Dr. Marcacius and not Marcus is because he feels like my parents haven't treated him nicely. So I think that he thinks if he saves my mom, that he will be brought back to peace in our family. This may sound a little bit selfish, but I hope that happens because as good as my relationship is with my mother, there's nothing wrong with it being made better, which is the main reason I'm on board with saving Mom. Back to my sensory issues, which I brought up earlier, were sensory issues that impact me in a negative way. What I brought up about my mother are sensory issues that impact me in a good way. Actually, no. Good is not the right word to use. The correct word to use is great. The reason why cuddling with my mom is so good for my sensory issues is because cuddling requires me to get deep pressure, which is essential for making me calm down as someone who has autism. And it's not just me, because a lot of people with autism need to calm down like that, and that is something that expands wide beyond our family. However, when it comes to positive sensory issues, very unique to me and just to me, but involve my mommy. I must admit that because my mommy loves me with all her heart, that stimulation of her kissing me on my cheek and forehead while cuddling me, that also calms me down and makes me calm. Also, when she smiles, which is all the time, when she cuddles with me, that makes me smile, which is good for my sensory issues, because that also calms me down. So at this point, I think a good rule of thumb is, if it calms me down, then it is good for my sensory issues. If it winds me up, then it is bad for my sensory issues. There are plenty of things that I see Mommy do that, while they may not be good for my sensory issues, they do make me happy. For starters, even when it is not to me, she is one of the nicest people I have ever met. She is so nice to my older brothers, and she is the nicest daughter-in-law to my grandparents. They just may not be the nicest in-laws back. However, what makes me happy the most is when she is around my daddy, and she and my daddy are just two people whose main purpose in life is just to love each other, and they express their love to each other by cuddling every night, which is why when my mommy is around my daddy, it literally makes them the two happiest people on the planet, which makes me happy when I witness it.